It being a little bit after 7 o'clock on Tuesday, May 15th, 2018, I am going to call the special board meeting to order. If everybody can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First of all, I want to announce that our attorney is now sitting up here. This is Kurt Asprey, and so that's why there's a change here in seating arrangements. This is not PG Allowance. It's right there. So, Pete, if you could take the roll call, please.
Assessor Wyman Pride. Here. Highway Commissioner Ken Mearcheck. Clerk G. Allowance here. Supervisor Moranis.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Caraboda. Here. Trustee McKenzie.
Here.
Trustee Sweeney.
Here.
At this time, is there any public participation on any item on the that is not on the agenda? Sir, if you'd like to step up. That's not on the agenda, because you have time, you can comment on any other agenda item. So, this part is, if it's not on the agenda. Thanks. Anybody else for any items that are not on the agenda? Dagmar?
It's about the budget, so I didn't know where you wanted it.
So why don't we wait till we get there? That's probably, which we're about to get to. So, next order of business is discussion and potential action on revisions and changes for the 2018 and 2019 budget. Now, just to have everybody keep in mind, we're not voting on the budget tonight, per se. So, this is more of a workshop type of thing. And so, at the board's request, Dana and I submitted a weekly revised budget, which everybody has. And I believe conversations and questions have been asked of the auditor and the attorney. And, with respect to the town fund and GA, we met our target that was requested, by this board, and we worked very hard to do that. And the reduction is really, great. And I appreciate this board's input into this process. And I think it helped, to really comb through this, even though we did before. And so, we also have the one that's on file, if anybody needs a copy at their desk. Does everybody have what the draft budget that's on the file? Does anybody need just what I sent in the packet is the revised. This is what I okay. So if you want to compare, yeah, I think they have so much paper. And Holly and Susie, and I have no, I got my copy. All right, so I'm opening, first to the board, who had requested, these changes. Oh, there's a couple things I do want to point out. That for the line item in town fund for staff, that includes everything, like literally everything. And I am extremely of the fact that included, proposed cost of living, salary, the different performance ones we've discussed throughout the months, as well as the position that is on the table with respect to Denise, it's $200,000 lower than actual from last year. So I thought that was, we did realize some cost savings, with the consolidations that we did. Similarly, with the insurance line item, given
Excuse me, Laura, may I just ask, are you referring to salaries line item?
the total
Okay,
salary
overall,
line item.
meaning the total personnel line.
Right. Right.
The actuals were $1,255,285. The revised budget is $1,263,709.
Right, the actuals from last year were $1,900,000.
The total fund,
Total.
total fund, not total personnel. I thought you said.
The total salary personnel for all of the
So if we, I'm trying to figure this
Salaries or
out.
total?
No, I'm saying town fund and GA, both of them are in there.
So if you add administration salaries with assessor salaries, with clerk salaries, with
Right.
OEM salaries, with mainstay salaries, and senior adult services, and GA, if you add all of those.
All of that is less than actuals last year.
You have the total, so that, because I.
Should be in there. Yeah, isn't it in there?
Totals, in the kind of worksheet.
Yeah, you guys have the worksheet, right?
Yes, but the total that you're speaking of, do you have that total, some totals?
Yeah, okay, so, total, is, I'm understanding you correctly. Which draft are we talking about here? The one on file? The last year's actual? Or
I thought you were referring to what was in our packet, because that's the most revised.
okay, and so
I'm just trying to understand what numbers you're referencing.
Are you referencing salaries only?
just salaries only.
Just salaries.
Just
So
salaries
across
only.
each of the six
Across each of
budgets.
those. Right.
We added this.
Right. That's the only line item I'm referencing at this point. That's it. The other one I just wanted to highlight.
And what you're saying is when, if we added those 6 departments, and we looked at those salaries as compared to what it was actual last year as compared to what's being proposed this year, it would amount to
Approximately.
differentiation of 200,000
Right.
less, considering the merit plus the cost of living adjustments that we make to that.
Dana, do you have the numbers that we have?
We would have to add it up. I mean, in the worksheet, we don't add the line items across, so I don't know. We have to add them up across.
But let me get to the next point, and we can go back and add that up for you. So the next point was with respect to the insurance line item. Similarly, I was very pleasantly surprised that, we negotiated a 6.5%, and 6.5%, I ended up, not creating with respect to town fund. It's either a minimal amount or it's about the same as what actual was last year. Because we got people, off and we consolidated these jobs. So district and GA, they were a bit more because of the 6.5.
I have 6.38 is the increase, that's.
I'm sorry, 6.3. So those are the two ones that I wanted to highlight, and now, it's open to the board for discussion.
Excuse me.
I recognize Highway Commissioner Hesmer.
How's this gonna work? Did highway interject with one of my budgets?
Oh, yes, okay, so, yeah. Okay, all right, so let's do, talk about town and jail.
Yeah.
Okay, trustee Smith.
I would just like to say that I appreciate the effort that's been put forward to look at a considerable difference. Initially, it was a $6.7 million budget, actual expenditures last year, not budget, actual expenditures, and the budget that was presented was $7.7 million, $1 million more. So we are significantly looking at, a reduction. The request, just sort of bringing us forward from last meeting, was to see a flat budget, not to exceed last year's expenditures, to 5% less than what last year's expenditures were, as opposed to $1 million increase, which was over a 15% increase. So, from my perspective, I think what the intent tonight was to see and to be presented with a budget that reflected what we requested, which was to see in all funds a significant reduction of $1 million. So I think that's what we're here to discuss tonight. Having laid that framework out, that's what our expectation was.
Yes, certainly, trustee Carabon.
Yeah, at the last board meeting, we spent time on that too. I would just repeat that Susan stated. And the goal here, as I saw it for myself, would be to take last year's spending, which looked like to be $6,721,693, and not increase it by $1 million, but to actually cut it by 5%, which would bring us to $6,385,608. So I spoke last time about how, for my vote for the budget, what I wanted to see for all budgets combined, we would spend $6,385,608, which would be the 5% cut. But keeping in mind that if we can't quite get there, which I hope we do, that we should not spend any more than $6,721,693 as last year. And you now come back, yes, it's no longer $1 million increase, but it appears that we're at $6,995,744. And so right now,
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. You're talking about all three funds.
all three funds,
Right.
just like we
Well,
talked about.
we have to take them as the lawyer.
Well, that was just my recommendation. Let me finish, if I may finish. So right now, we're starting at the premise where we're 274,000 over last year, and we're going to be, looks like, if we include the 5%, we're going to be at least 500,000 over the 5% amount, 6,385,608 with the 5% cut. Now, I'm not getting into at the moment who has power over what, and who paints what, and who builds what, and all that. I'm just saying as an overall goal is what I made real clear at the last meeting, that what I wanted to see was the 5%, bringing us down to $6,385,608. That's what I wanted to see, with a consideration, maybe some little wiggle room if we needed it, to bring it no more than $6,721,693. And without getting down into the weeds on it. Can it be done? I think it can. I think we got and I'm willing, as I mentioned to Laura, and Laura, as I emailed you, that I was not agreeable with what's presented, but I'm looking more than happy to continue your work, which you've done a lot of work over a week. to get us to where we're at right now. But I'd like to see, right now, I don't want to see a budget that takes us 250,000 over last year, let alone not provide for the 5% cut.
So my response to that, first of all, the number that is being picked are somewhat, I think our auditor can speak to that. That's not actually the number. But that's sort of irrelevant because it's, the actual, you guys, I think, took that number off the supervisor's financial statement, right? But the number gets adjusted with the accruals back when he does the audit, which I believe Chris explained and can explain. But more importantly, so, it does have something to do with what, we are able to control. If you take town fund and GA, our prorated share, if you will, absolutely meets your targets. And, if you review last, time's board meeting, you actually were comfortable, you would be okay with flat. It was a goal, if you could get to 5%, I see Don.
I would disagree.
I see Donna nodding in the
My
audience.
position, no, but my position was, I clearly said I want to see that 5%.
Okay.
I have to sweat it out.
You guys can do, you're free, that's what we're here for. And so, the highway department is a separate taxing body, and they have a separate budget, and I cannot, do their budget. So I think we are at a point where we need highway commissioner as an urgent.
Obviously, the cover letter that I sent with the revised budget didn't satisfy anyone or appeared not to satisfy anyone. But I tried to emphasize that there are variables in the highway department that may not exist in GA. Well, even GA would have variables depending on the economy. Or the town fund. In essence, we're subject to commodity price. You've read this already, maybe it's not wise to rehash that. The only thing I'd add is that a simple, non-fancy, one-ton dump truck costs $85,000. If one of our big rigs goes down, it's gone up to $250,000. We can possibly afford to buy new for a large truck. We have to go to the used market, even if I got precisely what I wanted or more. Things break down. Our average fleet is between 10 and 15 years old. The trucks, we're not operating with new equipment. I'm not asking for new equipment. It's just that there's so many variables that could cause the budget to exceed the 1.95 that was spent last year. That's the only point I'm trying to make. People don't seem to be impressed with that fact that there are variables, that they want a rigid number. That I prefer a budget that actually spends less than is allocated. That's going to be increasingly difficult to do if I'm using last year's figures as a max. I don't know what more to tell you, but without being redundant, but that's the case.
Trustee Singh.
My comment would be, in looking back over, at least since 2013 and beyond, the budget being requested is an appropriation of $2,258,966, and last year's actual was $1,969,268. So it's a difference of $289,000 requested this year versus last,
Right.
which is a 14.7% increase.
And for all this time, I've been a trustee.
And if I can just
Okay,
finish.
sorry.
I'm just stating facts for right now.
Yes.
This is just observations and, factually speaking, what's being requested here. So for the sake of everybody watching and at home, that we understand the differentiation. So it's a 14% increase, 14.7%. And in looking back since 2013, there has never been an actual expenditure over up to $2 million. So it's been $1.9 million, $1.7 million, $1.8 million. And so this would be, from my perspective, an anomaly, because, you know, to spend over $2 million.
Well, okay, I'm sorry if I interrupted, but my goal is to spend less than $2.2 million. And I think I will, but, you know, it's not a sin to over budget. It's a sin maybe if I asked for $3 million and had no intention of spending it, or had no means of spending it, but I always thought that when you're under budget, that's a very, very good thing. And in addition to this, there are projects that we're going to do, Pauline, that will probably exceed $250,000. We got to tear up the sidewalks, expand the road, level the road so it stops flooding, do sewer work. Just that one project alone will cost that amount of money. And if we do D Road, it's going to cost another $100,000. So these are expensive expenditures. This is not going to Kresge's and spending 5 and 10 cents. These are very expensive propositions. And I don't, you know, I've reduced it by over $250,000 from the one that I submitted to the clerk's office a month or 5 weeks ago. So, you know, it's almost like I'm being punished for being fiscally responsible because I'm not spending what I originally asked for. But, you know, you have to have a rainy day fund. And it looks good. Oh, look at me. I'm spending precisely what was allocated last year, or not allocated, but actually spent last year. But in reality, and as I explained in the cover letter, a cushion is not an evil thing. It's something that is necessary, even a household budget or a gigantic mega corporation. I don't see, you know, I'd be disappointed if I spent $2.2 million over the course of the fiscal year. I don't purposely intend to, but I feel more comfortable as a budget to have more than what was spent last year.
Yes, I'm sorry, trustee Gerber.
If we look at, it was actually where this budget is right now, the proposed budget is now at $6,995,000, 744, that area. If we were to bring that down to last year's spending minus 5%, we have a difference of $610,000. If we were to take the actual budget here on the table and reduce it down to where we were last year, total expenditures, you got a difference of $274,000. The road and bridge fund, if we were to keep it level as it was last year, that would save us $289,000, Wally. So if you were able to do that and keep your budget the same as last year, just by doing that, this budget alone goes from being $274,000 more from last year to being, about $10,000 less than what was spent last year if you were just able to keep your particular budget level. Also, it's my understanding that if there are emergency expenditures to be had, if there are ways to do that, to seek payment or special projects.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is if you were able to do that, and I know it's not easy because you can't look into the future, but if you were able to do that, we could actually have a budget just by doing that. That's $15,000 less than last year. And that's why I sent the memo to you, and that's why I would really like it if you would consider it. Keeping in mind that in my position would be to work side by side with you so that if there's anything else you need, something comes up, we're here. We're not going to just leave you in the dark. But if you could keep it level from last year, right then and there, we've got last year's budget minus $15,000 before we go ahead and take a look at the assessment. Go ahead.
Thanks. Okay, if the board is cognizant of the fact that there, you know, that's may not be the most prudent things to make it exactly equal to what was spent last year, but would not frown on the fact that there is a 100-year storm or a 15-inch snowfall or whatever else can happen, or one of the big rigs is disabled and not being able to be repaired, and we had to go out. Well, I don't know if we could go to the new market because they cost $250 grand. Where are you going to get the money? But even if we had to go to the used market, that we could, you know, do it over a 5-year period, do it responsibly, not come up with one large check. If people are cognizant of the fact that there are emergencies and are contingencies that may require additional funding, and we do have the reserves, the highway department, before and after this snafu or whatever we had, the audit, we had ample reserves. You know, and that figure isn't etched in stone that it can't be broached or exceeded, then, you know, maybe there's something to discuss.
I appreciate that, Walter. Thanks.
Man, are you, trustee Smith?
Thank you. I concur with Dave's, you know, suggestion, because I think, you know, that there are exceptions. As you had said, there's catastrophes. There's times when you can't plan for everything, and that's the purpose of an amended budget and revisions. I know currently that's happening at the library. They have to spend $100,000 more than they originally expected to replace the pillars. So they're going back to the city, and that's happening. And I think given the fact that we have, with our new fund balances, which are the reserves surplus, we currently have $1,706,000 in the road fund. I think that's exactly what that's for. And I think, you know, the comments that come up last meeting from Mr. Egan had spoken about, you know, the high fund balance that we really have across all three funds. I just added up the new totals that we have that our new auditor, Chris, had given to us. We have over $10 million in reserves, surplus, combined. So I think we're in really good shape to be able to keep the budget, you know, at least at flat, if not cut it, and understand that we have the ability to have an amended budget presented, should we need it, you know, in terms of whatever unexpected things that come up, and to spend on some of this, you know, really what is surplus.
I'm sorry, I want to go first, but.
Trustee Madison.
I mean, maybe I can summarize what I'm hearing as an accountant myself, and having gone through budgeting processes myself. I think that maybe we're trying to get to the same level playing field. You know, I think that with your experience before, you were very cognizant of meeting a budget, being way under budget as your target. And what we're trying to do, you know, is look at what you really are shooting for, what your real goals are, and to set a more realistic budget, not one that you necessarily will beat on every line item. That's not what our targets are, or I can just speak for my target. What we would like is, or I would like, is less speculation. I have never done a budget where every line item is speculated on, you know, maybe the weather's going to be worse this year, maybe oil prices are going to be higher this year. You know what, across the board and across years, it all averages out, and that's why the budgeting process works the way we're doing it. And so what I would just like to point out is I think that we all have the same goal, and that is for us to spend wisely, and nobody has ever said that you don't. I mean, I think that we would all agree that, you know, you always tell us about going to the market, finding the best prices. You've come up with new processes to, you know, go online and go to online auctions, and it's all really good. I mean, nobody is questioning that. All we're trying to do is set realistic budgets that we can all follow targets during the year, now that we're more familiar with what those targets are. And if there isn't a need, something that does come up, I am going to be open-minded to a need that, you specifically have. If there is, an overtime that comes into play because we have a catastrophe, we're all gonna know about the catastrophe, and you're gonna have estimates, and, we're going to amend the budget accordingly. But to have, and I don't wanna use this word, but just because it's on the top of my head, to have padding on every line item, that's really not, I don't think it's helpful to us. So I think that's why we're doing this request.
Yeah, I probably come from a different vantage point. In the first paragraph of my cover letter, I acknowledge that I appreciate more so the fact that you should have more realistic figures, because last year I probably underspent the budget by at least $500,000 or more. So, I'm amenable to do this. If there's nobody is going to say that this is bad management or that I'm doing something wrong because I'm asking for either an amended budget or even a public hearing if somehow we exceeded 10% of the budget. I can probably wean this down to a figure, and it may not be what you packet, but it'll be ready for the Tuesday board meeting. And just so you realize that it may be over if something happens.
That's understood.
Yeah, as long as that's understood.
I would concur with that. Yeah, your reputation precedes you, as you said. Very good.
Well, thanks. So, all I'm gonna say is that you'll have something, if this is long-term, well, maybe I shouldn't say that, because it's really a personnel, it's really something else that isn't proper for this meeting. But, there could be more severe repercussions if I have to go with 1.9 something for, the entire 4-year term. I'm sure that there'll be more of a variance than perhaps this year. But, so my goal then is to spend the balance of this week producing enough savings on paper to equal the 1 point, whatever was spent last year.
And you pick the line items.
Yeah, right, and, if that project's on Lene, not with Pauline, a couple other things that we do what we want to do in terms of road reconstruction, that's slightly over, but, I don't, 10% would be a lot. It has to be something major go wrong or cost overrun on the project or something. Hopefully it won't happen. But, I appreciate the words that you indicate that, I'm not trying to throw money out the window or hoard funds or anything like that. It's just, I come from a different perspective where you allocate $25,000 for your household expenses and you spend 22 in your hand. Maybe the taxpayers' money is a little different, but as long as people aren't, they're not shaped by amended budgets, I can certainly comply with a figure that approaches the amount that we spent last year. Thank you.
Great. I had that reflected as $1,969,268.
Yeah, that's right. That's the figure.
So, if Wally does that, then that would account for the, whatever overage, you're seeing, and then, with respect to town funding, we're still under the
Oh, that was a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Dana and I literally worked and Vicky are, hours, and brutal.
It was a lot of time, I can see it. If
Trustee Carabana.
Now, if we were able to work with the assessor's office, we can now aim toward trying to do some portion of that 5% cut. We can work with the assessor's office. And what I wanted to do was get a clarification on what was spent last year versus, versus what's being proposed this year on the assessor's office. So if we can hear that.
Well, you can actually see the figures on page 3. And the assessor is asking for approximately a little over 30,000 more. That includes the insurance. I have to have the money in personnel and salaries because next year we're open up for our triennial assessment, reassessment, and I will have to hire extra staff. We have up to 200 people that come through my office a day when I'm open. The Social Security, that was figures I have received. Dental, you have to stick with that. Don't know what that's going to be. Municipal retirement fund, that's steady. Health insurance, we got the actuals on that. So maybe I can move slightly on that. Yes.
If the actuals are correct, are the actuals correct at 103,857 from last year?
That's what I'm seeing from my,
If I add 6.38% onto that, I come up with 110,000.
Which is your point.
Not 115,000, so
That's what
Right,
Susie's point was.
Yeah.
that's what my
So
point
that's
why you
was.
can move.
Yeah,
That was my point.
Yeah, I'm just confirming that's
Appreciate
$2,500
Okay.
right there.
So I'm going to do $2,500
Mhm.
so far.
4,500.
No, it's,
It's the difference between
No, because we.
115 and 110, 488.
isn't it 25? Wait, I'm sorry. I'm terrible at
No,
math.
it's 4,500.
4,500.
2,500.
Right. All right.
That was a good spot.
And, anybody else?
So that's all I have that I can do.
You factored in some things about hiring a new person, did you say?
Our triennial is coming up next year.
Can you explain what the triennial?
We're the assessor every 3 years. You'll get that letter, and what they revalue your property and your assessed value. And 3 years ago, it went up for people between, and probably everybody here would know that, anywhere between 10% to 100%. So our office saw in 30 days, almost 200 people a day. And then phone calls. So I would be hiring part-time just to fill in the gaps a little bit. The phone is constantly ringing, and the lines are out the door. We accommodate people in a Section 5 GA, have all those seats all taken, and people are out the door. And consequently, too, the clerk's department, in sync with that, has something else going on at that time, too. So the township park in the lot we can't do it. We have to go elsewhere, across the street at the Nestle Center.
I'm looking for the number that was the total for last year actual expenditures.
On what?
On everything.
332,
332.
267.
So it's literally only 30,000 difference.
That's 10%.
I understand, but I think what her point, I'm not speaking for her, but one other thing I do want to add on from being here is that the GA department, brings people over to the assessor's office as a function of helping the GA people, because, public aid advocacy is one of their duties. And so, they discover in the course of these interviews, that they have, with their GA clients and walk-ins and whatnot, that many of these seniors and potential public aid potential public aid recipients have not availed themselves of, like the basic exemptions. So, if we can keep a person off public aid by bringing them over to Susie, who literally, then they see them right away. So, it really gets it very backed up, and I'm just talking from experience because I've been here during, many days when that happens. So, that's a factor that, and they do take appointments, but, when you have a GA person who has all sorts of, disabilities or whatever the case may be, if you can help them in that department and keep them off the public aid roll, it's going to cost you less in the long run and probably be a goal, I think, that is good. So,
So is that something we've seen happen?
Oh, yeah.
So with exemptions, helping them, the exemptions themselves, that they may not have been.
Not only exemptions, but even they visit the township, we have to establish that first
Pardon me?
off. We even have to establish if they do even live in the township first off.
Right, because they can
Because a lot of
see
people come in here and do not, and because our boundaries, with Park Ridge, Des Plaines, Morton Grove, Niles, they could be outside of the township, even though they live in areas where the township, we do have municipalities, but those share in other townships. So, the only thing that I can take off of this
But
is
your point
because of
is
the
it helps
insurance.
us- I'm just trying to.
No, my point
What you're
is that
saying, you're
it adds
keeping them off
extra work
Public aid because.
to them, and I think it helps public aid. And Marcia can speak
You
to
have
that.
many residents that are house poor. And so therefore, because they are unable to pay their property taxes, and they have a very limited income, and may not be eligible for Social Security, they come to us and they apply for general assistance. And we will make sure that they have access to every opportunity that a state or federal program offers. And one of the first places we go is the assessor's office to confirm all the information that they give to us.
So, in many ways, as Susie was trying to say, they weed people out that, can't, be on it because they're not in the township. And also, Marcia, am I correct that, and maybe both of you can answer this, that sometimes you have clients that can be helped via them that don't need to go the full public aid route once they realize, gee, I didn't have the homestead exemption, or I didn't have the senior exemption.
Or senior freeze.
Or senior freeze. Things that are available to everybody. And that is the job of the assessor. So, I think keeping people off the rolls, is not a bad goal. This the other half of GA is, we have our direct shelter, and then Trustee McKenzie.
So I'm looking at your, Assessor Craig, I'm looking at your salary number of $197,580, but according to the proposed salary budget for the next fiscal year, your total is $184,188.
Where is he looking?
That's what you were given.
Right, that's the, as I said, for assessor, we aren't doing any performance raises there. that's COLA. And so that line item that you're referring to, which goes into the greater line item, that's COLA. Once you do COLA, you've got to do it for every employee.
Well.
So it's not part of her, that's what I was trying to explain today, it's not really part of her budget. I mean, it will get assigned, if that makes sense, it'll get assigned, you know, under that expense, but like, I can't change her budget. You know, that's her budget to put on file, and obviously we can, you know, you guys can, but, so, you know, her salary line item, from what I'm understanding, went down. Is that right?
No, it's the same.
Right, or didn't go up. The only thing that went up is if we get the COLA. But overall, when you look at the total for the entire town, it's down. So I was trying, you had said, all of you, that nobody was gonna micromanage, that it was up to Dana and I to figure out where to put these line items, where to draw from, and I think we had public comment from Ms. Adams that, you know, was like, wow, if we can use some of these savings for, you know, giving the staff, you know, with all these consolidations, as you know, they are working, some of them, double duty. So, but, you know, that's, so maybe that's where the confusion is.
My confusion is with the salary budget. I mean, back to the budget and the assessor's budget. You know, we do get to discuss line items and to adjust items. And, you know, the triennial happens every 3 years, right? That's what a triennial is. So this is not the first time we've had a triennial. And there's no reason why, just because a triennial is next year, that you necessarily need an extra person.
2019.
I understand, but my point is, this is not like, you know, a new happening. It happens every year. This is, you know, you've already been through triennials.
But every triennial, they do hire extra students.
Okay, well, on average then, it should already be in the budget. We should not need another person.
It's only someone for that time. It's not a permanent person.
Like no health insurance.
There's no, it's a temporary help situation where we have someone come in and pay them. It's nothing that they get any benefits, any insurance,
So part-time, temporary.
part-time.
For like a very specific, short period of time.
Okay, so this differentiation, the difference between the 184,000 for salaries and the 197,000 is for this person? So that's
And twice a year, because not only do I do it with the assessor's office, but I also do it for the board of review.
So it's
Because we have that many people coming back in, when people get the results from the assessor's office and are not comfortable with it, did not get it changed in their assessed value, they have another option to do an appeal with the board of review. So we have the same amount of people that come in, we need another person on staff.
And this is what the $13,000 is for those 2 periods of time, for how many months each time?
2 months.
2 months.
Trustee Carabelli.
I think that.
You're quibbling with, this is kind of like, I mean, this is like, this is pretty much what I need. And if you're doing dollars and cents here, this is what I need for my office to run for next year.
I think it's incumbent upon you.
The only thing
as a
that I
trustee
would
to
change in
understand what
this
the needs are.
is because I had to put out the insurance and put that out to you in December, because I didn't have the figures, so I could change that line item.
So it's just, it's.
But that's the only thing
as a
that I should change in my
fiduciary,
budget.
having a responsibility, I just want to understand what it is that you've done in the past. And I think it's
Well,
open
I already
to
told
discussion.
you, we see 200 people a day, plus phone calls.
So it
You
is.
get 100
So it's
phone calls,
$13,000
100
for 2 months, 2 times, 2 different months, 4 months, for each, okay. So I personally have some thoughts and some considerations on what we, ought to think about as a possibility.
Well, have you run the
offset.
assessor's office? Have you been in my office and do you see the amount of people that come through?
Susie?
Well, you know what? You
Okay,
don't.
so-
I haven't, and you haven't been.
I am not.
So I am sorry.
Okay, guys,
It's not
I really,
personal.
everybody's.
I mean, you're
just-
nitpicking, you're
This is
nitpicking.
not a personal.
And you know what? It is personal. It is very personal. And I know that to be true. I know that to be true. You're lessening my office.
Okay.
My office does
Guys, I
significant
have to
work
stop
in
this.
the township.
All right. What I need is, you guys say what you want, and the assessor, explains whether she can do it. And at the end of the day, we understand you guys have to pay, can or not pass for budget. We get that. And that, our attorney can explain more about that process. So we're all trying to move towards moving forward and unity. So I get both sides here,
It's just questions.
I understand, but everybody gets their emotions up, and I'm trying to keep
I'm
it back.
trying to understand the
No, you
facts.
say you get ideas on how to run it.
Okay,
So look it up.
okay, so, the 13,000 for 2 part-time people twice a year. We have our intern. That's like that. You're talking like $10 an hour, right?
It's too much.
Yes, trustee Carabot.
That's
See,
McDonald's.
what I'm saying, and not to be personal, this is what I'm looking for, me, okay? To approve this budget, for us to have an assessor's budget which is in line with last year after the dental adjustment, without going over last year's budget, all we need to locate is $36,065.89. That's all we need to make it level. Now, to get the 5% cut, it's $52,679.25. So we're talking between $36,000 and $52,000 in order to bring that budget in line. And I would say that our assessor would have the ability to do that if we can crunch those numbers so that we're not going over at a minimum what we spent last year by $36,065.89. I would love to see the 5% cut, which would be $52,679.25, keeping in mind that if emergencies come up, problems come up, issues come up that may call for additional funds, the board's here for you. We're here for the assessor's office.
Board isn't.
But I'm just saying to you, whether it's, believe it or not, there's something called objective truth. Okay? And it's an objective truth. It doesn't have to be believed. That I'm saying to you has been my understanding, and I know I am, and I believe the rest of the boards here. So I think, just to bring it in line, because you noted the adjustment for the insurance, we're down to $36,065 to bring it in line with last year. I would love to see bring it up a bit, so we're closer to $52,679. But that's what I would like to see.
I've cut all my other lines, except my personnel. I've that the same as last year. I've cut every other line, except of course dental.
I'm so your request, what line,
I will cut the insurance.
Right.
That's all I'm doing.
and the other items are,
Every cut.
1,800, 100, 540, 500. So I guess my only point is that when it's, does end up being a part of town fund, we're still well under with respect to the target goal, Dave, that you wanted, especially if Highway Commissioner Kazmierczak is going to do what he's going to do. And the reason I think I'm hearing from Assessor Wyman Cry that, you know, first of all, really a 5% cut, I think, like in a triennial year is unrealistic. But, you know, I think whatever extra, I think it's 30,000, right? That's the extra it was over last year. And we've already cut 4,500, right?
That was as a result of very good insurance work that you did with the insurance.
Thank you.
person. What I'm saying, when you have a budget that's $363,833 and $354,413 is personnel, well, we got to look at where we're, and then we have 10,000 contractual services. I mean, somehow, we were able to function last year without that additional $36,065 just to make it level, which I would be necessarily happy with.
So my
But
question,
we were able to function last year. If there's something new or something happens or we have that function that we're talking about that happens every 3 years, I don't want to just put that in that I'm going to estimate, I'm going to bring in 2 people and I'm going to put in $13,392 because that's what I'm guessing I'm going to need to do.
No, I know, I'm not.
All I'm
yeah.
saying is that if everything's the same as last year, except that 13,000 for the 2 employees, why are you $36,065 over to begin with? Also, I made it abundantly clear at the last meeting over 4 times what I was looking for. So I really don't think that I'm being terrible, maybe just one terrible. To try to keep it with, to somehow get rid of that 36,000 that showed up from somewhere, let alone 52,000 and get us 5%, somewhere in that range.
so my question is, or point is, I don't think she's just guessing at, you know, 30,000, you know, I think that's based on experience from the previous triennial assessments. Is I think everybody is well aware, and, you know, moving this discussion along, but, you know, the assessor's office is very commonly referred, you know, from Park Ridge Concerned Homeowners Block, from Virtual Chatter, from many other local people to come here, and also, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, Susan, but they closed the branch courts, which is have an impact. Is that projected to have an impact?
Definitely.
All right, and so I don't know if you know, that's known that the branch courts, you know, are closing or scoping with respect to where anybody in the audience could go for their assessments. So, you know, coming here, and, you know, personally, I like to service our residents, and I do have sort of an issue with making seniors handicapped or anybody. If we have an office here that does this work, if we can reach a number, and I think she in good faith is trying, I think you guys in good faith are trying. You know, that, you know, you say that, you know, what I want to ask you, Trustee Carabota, first of all, I don't want to send everybody downtown to, you know, Joe Barrios' office, and especially because we do get a large proportion of people coming from GA and other referrals within Maine Township. You know, I just don't want to do that. But I understand your guys' point of view. So obviously, you know,
Which is just mine,
yeah, no, I get it, and I am the authority. So, you know, but you said, you know, if there was some special thing, and I think if I'm hearing right, the special thing is the triennial assessment.
when,
So you're questioning the difference between 13,000 and 36? Is
No.
that-
no, I'm questioning number one. I'm questioning number one, where we just come up with a number for 13,000, when if there's an actual need and it's brought before the board and we're able to actually see what that expense is, that's an if then. And the if hasn't happened, so we don't need the then. And also, if all the numbers are the same as last year and the insurance was adjusted down, there shouldn't be a $36,065 increase. So in number three, I made it real clear that I don't want to see any of the budgets go over what was spent last year no matter what, let alone I'm looking to give the taxpayers 5 cents back on every dollar is what I'm always talking about. I would like to see a 5% cut. Now Wally came forward and he has many more variables too. And Wally came forward and said he's going to trust the board and take a chance by not cutting his budget by 5%, but by keeping it level. Here, we either have between 36,000, which keeps us level, to 52,000, which gives us the 5% cut. You also got to keep in mind, we have an awful lot of money in storage, as we say. So that's what I want to see, and I'm confident that our assessor Craig could do it. I'm confident.
Can I answer that?
Assessor Wellington.
For one thing, we give hundreds of thousands of dollars back to our residents and everything that we do for them. We are a service office. We don't have money coming in like GA or the clerk's office has money coming in. We don't have that substantial of a budget like the highway department has. I've cut a lot of things out. I've tried to make that where we are being responsible. But truth be told, I am not going to cut my budget because there's expenses in here that fluctuate and come back here and plead with this board that I need the money and have to explain it to you. Not gonna happen. I ain't gonna do it. Because you know what? It's been very difficult for me to work with you. And I am getting rid of, I'm going down on the
I don't want everybody to get personal.
I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna come back here and beg for my office for money. When we don't give 5 cents back in the dollar to our residents. We give thousands of dollars back to our residents. It's astronomical. And I'll give you my stat of people writing to us say that if we weren't here, they wouldn't know what to do. To thank us, an appreciation for what our office does. You're gonna get me to, drop this, cut this more? No, ain't happening. Sorry. I'll do the health insurance.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay, all right, so I got it. Hang on 1 second. I'll recognize you in a minute. So, I think what he's saying is, not that I'm a trained mediator, but what he's saying is, according to the attorney, they have the authority where, they can do it. And so I think, if I'm hearing correctly, you're asking Assessor Money Craig to figure out a way to do that, rather than you or, taking an axe to it. Whatever, you don't agree with, if I'm getting this right, and I'm not meaning it personal, with the justifications, just like you didn't agree with Wally's, for, this need, and I just want to get this right, so that, we know going forward, even though the overall town fund was reduced by your target amount, of which the assessor is a part. So, so I think maybe that might be a point that is making her think it's personal.
With one adjustment.
Okay.
with the road and bridge fund,
Well, right,
right? I wanted a 5% cut. Wally came back, we kept it level, and he said he really needs to do that. And I said, well, if he's willing to do that, I'm considering letting go of the 5% increase, because he came forward right away and to try to find a way to keep it level, but to remember, keep in mind that if something comes up, because he has a number of variables, okay, that's great. Now I turn to the assessor's office, my own viewpoint, and there's a $36,000 issue to keep it level as last year. I'm looking for the $52,679 to bring it down to 5%.
You'd be okay keeping it flat. I'm just trying to cut to the chase here.
If you can work it out, I would work with you on that.
I don't know, I'm doing my best, trustee Mackenzie.
So I'm looking at the Cook County triennial property tax assessment schedule, and for Maine Township, it's 2019, not 2018. So the need, or the want, really, it's not a need, it's a want, to have an extra person would be in 2019, not 2018. Most of our
That's part of
fiscal
this
year,
fiscal year.
it's 2 months, okay? So that's number one. Number two is, we don't assess. Our assessment,
Oh, you read the blocks, huh?
I have the floor, okay?
Okay,
Can I
I
please
really
finish? I
want
listen to you.
everybody to not interrupt, please.
We are not assessing. If people are coming for services, that is great, but people have been coming for services, the same services. The triennial assessment does not cause the assessor to assess, okay? That's our Cook County Barrios' office. So, I'm not going to agree that that is a need. It is a want.
I'm saying, what I meant by these flags is, I recall you sending, several people, I sent people, other people sent people, and I know Pete has sent
As a
people.
realtor, I send them in by the scores.
Absolutely. So I, don't know how many in the audience have used the services
But we have a budget.
of
We
the Cook
can't,
County assessor.
we can't just double our budget.
I don't think it's double.
Well, we can't arbitrarily just increase it because that's what you feel like. I mean, we have a budget and we say that it should not be increased.
And that's my budget.
Right,
Right, so we're gonna have to reach.
It's a 10% increase from last year alone.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to reach, okay, guys, we're gonna obviously, in the next week, have to read something because they'll get 30 to vote no. And, I think that, Assessor Marlene Cry has stated the reasons, there's like not such drastic, I guess, I understand the point. So, but, having said that, we've got to move forward. We really have to, trustee Sweeney.
And to follow, because I had the same thought with trustee Mackenzie, that, that would say that you'd be asking for additional money in the 2019 year where the triennial.
Can we just work on when you're?
So, and the last comment I would make is just for consideration on the travel lodge expenses. In the past, I've seen expenses that have been reimbursed for overnight travel in Chicagoland area, in Lombard and Westmont. And I don't understand why we pay for overnight.
So I got it, okay, that's sort of an inappropriate, out of context comment, because it's, if you have a problem with the bill, when it comes up,
Well,
mention
that's
it.
been a policy, so I don't have a problem with, if reinforcing what the policy is, but it's our opportunity here to talk about line items and say, hey, here's a way that we could, consider saving some money.
Yeah, and now we are
Stay with
operating
council.
on an actual expense policy, like we resolution, right? You know, we're actually, Dana and I, you know, cut out a ton from conferences, meetings, and are thinking
We
of
had no
that.
discussion about whether we would, whether there should be a delineation or difference between overnight hotels going down to Springfield.
I
versus
totally
staying
agree.
locally in
We were gonna
Chicago.
cut Springfield out completely
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
have the
but-
trustees
so-
pay for it if they wanted to go. But, you know, you all seem to really get something out of it, and, no, I mean, that honestly, but that was a big expense. It is a big expense. And, you know, we really were trying to meet your target goal. So, you know, oh, thank you. We also have to consider TAC. TAC is, you know, I'm waiting to see the voucher. You know, because, what is it, 2,000? 2,000 to belong to TAC. I don't go to their meetings. I think you guys do. I mean, do you find them $2,000 helpful? You know, is it something?
Of course, of the year, I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I just, you know, I want to
I think
consensus.
it is, I'm just focusing on the assessor right now.
But these are the same kind of meetings, so.
No, what I'm saying, I'm just focusing on the assessor's budget, is what I was saying.
Right, and then I think in her meetings, and there's training that has to be kept up, which I think is the only overnight.
Yeah, I see 1,300.
Right, so, obviously, you know, we're at an impasse there, and we will have to figure out, you know, something in a week.
Can I make a comment as administrator, because I'm the one that actually works up the budget. So this has to be passed by law next Tuesday, correct? So I have to actually have a completed budget brought to the meeting. So I can't like obviously work on it, you know, while we're in the meeting. So whoever decides on the numbers, I don't want to even comment. Kurt, I mean, whoever decides on the numbers or however this process works, I need to have something emailed to me or whatever numbers are going to be changed in the assessor's department. Bring to me a day or two prior, just so I can, you know, work on changing it and have a completed budget brought in by Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
So
You know what I'm saying?
you don't have to do the 48 hours thing.
Well, honestly, if you give it to me a couple days before, I mean, I can work on it in a time crunch. I guess what I'm saying is, we can't still be discussing it next Tuesday, because I can't go up there and work on it while we're in the meeting, you know what I mean? So I have to know prior to the meeting, 100% what it's gonna be. Yeah, so.
And then in
theory,
Denise Wally's revised budget for Tuesday, because I know he said it was going to.
I don't have anything to do with highway, it's completely, that's
Well, we give
I'm
it to
in
you.
Jamestown.
Hopefully, but not hopefully, definitely Tuesday, maybe even in advance.
Yeah,
I
so-
can get it to you over a week.
All I'm saying is whoever decides to, I'm not sure.
I only told
Comment
you
on
that.
that?
Ultimately, the board will have.
It's the board, okay, so if we decide on the numbers, I have to have those numbers a couple days prior, because it's not even just inputting the numbers, it changes my bottom line number, you know what I'm saying, it's kind of a big deal, and I have, everything changes in the budget, so I would just would appreciate it a couple days prior to Tuesday, if you don't mind. Well,
I'm sorry, did somebody have an objection?
Who says, it's not
Curious, I mean, do you want us to do?
I know,
That's fine.
No,
Well, I think our attorney
she is
said-
saying
Yeah, our attorney
if,
It's ultimately going to be the board's discretion to determine how much budgets.
You guys
That's
answer.
what I said, so, yeah.
if the parties
I think we're only
won't do it, you know, then, but I think, you know, if everybody can talk calmly, I do think it can be done. But, trustee Carroll.
I think we're all set, at least unless I'm wrong, unless I'm putting too much of a rosy picture on it. It seems like we're all set pretty good, except for the assessors between 52,000 and 36,000. That's the only.
Well, I really, you know, no other place, we didn't do, I mean, we ended up with some line items going, you know, 5% under, but if you rewatch the end of that meeting, everybody was voting with the goal of flat, and I think that does reach your other point that you discussed, and, you know, there is.
I'm only considering flat because of what we're doing here.
thank you. But you have to have some consideration for the fact I can't work 100-hour weeks, okay? And I'm really, trying. And but, you know, I'm not quite saying, you know, 36,000, you know, maybe Susie and the attorney can sit down and the auditor, I'm not saying where it's coming from, but in terms of when I look at the numbers, because the salary is a fixed item, other than this 13, right, okay.
Well,
That's not gonna make
the
it.
adjustment is not a fixed item. I mean, if the assessor is not willing to work with us, and we're gonna have to slash these or adjust these numbers ourselves, we're gonna adjust all the line items, including the salaries. I mean, we're asking her to make the calls, but if she's not going to, then we're going to.
You're talking about the salaries in her line. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys have made your position perfectly clear. You know, I just think there doesn't need to be a level of, you know, hostility on either side. I think that this can all be worked out. I think, you know, the point is it's triennial, and it's, you know, minuscule as compared to, if you saw prior budgets from Trustee Jones.
I mean, the 2 months of the triennial is in 19, which would be this fiscal budget. She budgeted, if I understood correctly.
What 2 months are we talking about then?
January, February.
January and February.
Okay. Susie, if I understood you correctly from this, you budgeted for two times, which would be the following September, right? Which would be the assessors. What if you met them halfway and cut it up to 6.5 instead of the 13? Just for the 2 months, and then revisit it next year's budget for the following 2 months. Since that's in a different fiscal year anyway.
Then I would maybe go and have to raise it. You know, I'm just, you know, going back to them, trying to get the money if I can't. I mean, all my line items have come down and everything. My rep came down, my dental insurance, my health insurance, my conferences and meetings, my dues and subscriptions, my miles of travel, my printing of publications, my training, miscellaneous, my office supplies, everything has seen a difference. Everything.
Am I looking at the wrong numbers?
Yeah,
Every single
I
one
put down.
of those items that you mentioned did not go down, they went up.
Well, let's make sure we're talking about the same thing. Went down from the.
From what I had asked previously.
Right, so
I cannot take into account
This is the one.
because that always fluctuates and changes. Next year I'm going to have to do more printing because my printing right now is old. It's not giving me the correct information. I'm going to have more staff training. I'm not sure about office. I mean, my big line item, of course, is the salaries. But that's what the assessor's office depends on, even though we don't assess. Okay?
So I think one of the problems is, you know, you guys don't have, like, her budget is put on file in January, right? So, is it December or January?
When she gave December.
Okay, December. So you don't have in front of you her actual last year line item budget. So you do? Oh, okay. So why are, you know, like if she's saying it went down, why are you guys saying it went up?
Because just like the last discussion about budgets and setting budgets, Assessor Cry is looking at the inflated old budget, and we already have been through this. That is not how we're looking at budgeting. We budget off of this year's actual. And so it is misleading to talk about going down from a prior inflated budget. We went through this last year. So every single line item is increased, not decreased.
Right. But when we discussed inflated, I had a discussion with you today, and, you know, I wasn't referring to this when you have $540 for, you know, we're so close, guys, really, we're so close. We can't, you know, everybody put everybody's heads together and figure it out. However best we can do that. So you guys want actual,
From actual
Yeah,
spent,
I think
from actually spent last year to what we're actually gonna spend this year.
okay, and
So it was 332,267, and we want to see that number.
And how much does the insurance raise?
the insurance went up 6.5%.
Let's get the actual.
I'm sorry, 6.32%.
6.38.
I don't know if your
So
department.
it would bring it to 110,000 for ADA instead of 115,000. But obviously, the biggest issue in this was, I'm looking at the income statement that I got from Chris, which was for the 12-month period ending 2018, which will be reflected in the audit. And the budget from the year before that was also 197 in salaries, so that wasn't a triennial year. And the actual spend was 179, 147. So that's why that in itself is a, you know, almost a $20,000, $18,000 differential. So there was a factor for salaries increasing in that year too, based on the budget.
Okay, so I think we know where we're at. You know, when we left the last board meeting, I really thought you guys meant it, that if we reached the overall target goal, which I think with Wally being in charge of a fund, Susie's not in charge of a separate, I mean, she's in charge of the assessor budget, which is not in itself a taxing factor. I thought if you guys, you know, were leaving it up to us to micromanage these different line items, I mean, that's what my impression was. That, you know, you said, I don't want to tell the experts how to do their work.
5% cut is what I was looking.
Please review the tape. You know, even with the 5%, I'm just saying, you did leave it to us to make those, right? Am I right on that?
Please.
I'm sorry.
I'm saying please.
But you did leave it to us.
Well,
You
that
actually-
was my position, that was my
Yes,
position.
I'm
And
getting
I
your
did use the
position.
word, I will not micromanage, but yes.
Yes.
I recall saying that, I
Right.
specifically said it.
Right, and so
To see a 10%
she's
increase
part
is-
of the town fund.
Yeah, but she's.
Okay.
We're not a 5%
Part of
cut.
the fund.
Maine, you know,
She has her own budget. It has to go down.
That's gonna go down from the insurance.
Laura, I'm just gonna say that we can sit here all night, but if all parties aren't willing to compromise and to be flexible and open and listen to what the objections are, then we might as well just come up with our own budget.
well, that's what Dan was saying. If
Yeah,
we-
and that's fine.
I mean, just for that portion.
Yeah, for the assessor.
Okay, so do you want me to make the assessor to actual? Is that what you're asking me to do from last year? You want me just to redo the budget with the assessor to actual? Sounds
I
like
can
what you're
always
asking.
speak for myself.
Well,
I would
Yes.
consider-
I have to, I have
This
to
is a
calculate
discussion.
something. I have to calculate something.
Let me
Yes.
ask
Okay.
something. I would like, you know, I brought our auditor, I brought our lawyer, I'd like to hear from the experts. Grace, let's put you
What are we
on.
hearing about?
Well, I just didn't want to hear if
I want to
this,
know the questions, so that
I'm about to ask. You know, is is this, you represent 33 various, I think, boards, including 18 or so townships. Is this a normal way to make budgets?
Yes, I mean, the majority of the time, you're supposed to work off your actuals. That's
Okay.
how budgets typically are done. Some personal budgets are typically done. So yes, that's normally what you do.
And then, when you have any projected, I guess when I'm asking the same question Wally was asking, is it
Yeah, well,
under accounting practice better to, when you know an expenditure is gonna be needed, and this goes for everything, not just for assessor or, highway, when you know an expenditure is gonna be needed, is it better to budget for it? When you get the money to do it, or to, have to keep coming back and amend the budget, I guess is, I know it's not, we can do that.
Right.
That's not the question.
I mean, it's safe to say that we should take our actuals from the previous year. That's how our budget should be going forward. If there are circumstances that arise that additional expenditures are needed, that's when the board has the opportunity to say, okay, we need this, let's amend the budget and get what we need. So that is typically what I see at park districts, school districts, and townships, budget process work.
And do they
They
do
can
that?
approve anything additional that was not included in the budget.
And do they do that after that? Like, let's say we have a catastrophe, and Wally and I are on a Saturday, and we have to,
Right.
have a declaration of emergency and, get, 1,000 sandbags and, pay extra to Republic and get, the kits and, all this overtime. So I just want everybody, and I think I know the answer, so I just want to share it. Obviously, you're not going to convene a board meeting,
Right.
so.
You know, different than how bills are passed every month now.
Right,
You know,
okay. So you're gonna go over, like, let's say his catastrophe cost,
Right.
$50,000. I'm just using a
But
crazy.
they're not gonna say, no, we're not gonna fix the hole with the water running through the roof. They're not
Right,
saying that.
okay, so that's sort of the premise I'm trying to get over here, where I think.
It's also actual versus speculative
I know.
expense.
And I'm trying to get everybody to understand that a budget is a flexible, living document.
Right.
And, that, like, when we're so close, like, not to let, other extraneous things get in the way.
And
Trustee
also-
Sweeney.
And also, as I understand, we can spend out of reserve or surplus, and that's, besides the amended budget, that's where it will come from, and we have $10 million in reserves in all three funds.
Right, I just didn't think it was great accounting practice to base a budget and spending, of course you can spend reserves. I'm gonna be raising an issue with the capital fund in a few minutes on some very emergency building things. To me, that's what reserves really should be, rather than doing a day-to-day, expenditures. To say, okay, well, we went over budget, so next year at the annual town statement, I'm gonna be saying, well, we went over budget, but we used the reserves, like, and the more you cut, the more the reserves are gonna go up, right? Okay, so we're all clear on it. Okay. Are there any other, revisions and changes?
I have a question to the attorney.
Sure.
When you have these amended budgets, because I think there was only one when I was a voting member of the board, and I was there for a long time. Is it 10% of a given line item, or 10% of your budget that requires an amended budget?
It's 10% of the line item.
Yeah, and then secondly, it exceeds 10%, you have to file a month ahead of time.
You have to, yeah, you have to go through the same
Have a
process
public
when we got your
hearing.
initial budget, so you have
Have
to
a
file
public
it.
hearing and then,
You have to have it tentatively available 30 days beforehand.
that's if it's 10%.
Yeah, you
And then
follow the
get
same
allowed.
process when you adopt your.
Now, what if it's something like postage or some minor thing for $500? You have to have a revised budget for that.
Well, you would hope that it won't be more than 10% of the line item that you can move.
They call that a line item transfer.
Yeah.
Oh, that I know.
Board of Ed, right?
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I can still go through the board, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have to? I mean, if they had something that was less than 10%, do we have to convene a special board meeting?
He wouldn't have to as the highway commissioner, but any other line item changes that are within the town's budget, we always recommend that goes to the board.
Good to know. Because we've gotten conflicting advice in the past on that, actually, from our prior accountant. So, glad that you guys are both on board. Now, I know Dagmar had her hand raised. Do you still want to make public comment?
It's on OEM budget.
Okay. Can you?
I'm just going to read it, I voted earlier today. When we were asked to cut back expenses this year, I took it to heart. I am very frugal and did not purchase anything that we absolutely did not need. I reused and recycled items wherever possible, including uniforms. When possible, I fixed things. To further save, I have attended some trainings on my own time and not put in on my time card. I've cut corners wherever I could. I've spent many volunteer hours to help cut costs. I guess that was my mistake not to spend what I had in the budget this year, because now my budget was further cut to what I had spent this past year. My budget this year is reduced by 56% of what it was originally. When Laura, Dana, and I had our budget meeting, we cut OEM's budget by 20%, and I was okay with that, because everybody needs to cut back. And that's more than other departments did. Last week, I had quite a shock when I submitted a receipt for $82 for operating supplies and was told that my whole operating budget for this coming year was going to be $138. I purchased furnace filters, garbage bags, and some batteries. That certainly does not leave much left for other operating expenses. The $3,800 for the Citizen Corps program did not come out of taxpayers' money. That was money granted to us and therefore cannot be reduced or taken away. But it was cut by more than half in the latest version of the budget. We have 3 vehicles and a light trailer, a Blazer, light truck, and a communication truck. We were lucky that last year we did not have to have any major vehicle repairs done. 2 vehicles are close to 20 years old, and the other is 35 years old. The $614 that is allotted in the latest budget might cover the gasoline. There are no funds available for much else. For special events and also for when we are called out to aid the fire police department, we always carry water, ice, and Gatorade. We also feed the volunteers if we are on an extended time period event. $155 won't go very far. The volunteers and I have made some of the minor repairs to our facility. We did put kick plates on all the doors to extend the life of the doors where they started to rust. We did some electrical work and also some tuck pointing. We did have to pay for some work on the automatic door openers, which are very old. We have 3 furnaces, multiple overhead fans, and 1 hot water heater. Any one of those items could need work as well as the roof. The utilities and telecommunication costs don't increase. We're going to be fine with those items. We all need to pray that we don't have any disasters in our community, since our disaster operations supply item was cut drastically. I've been fortunate enough to find training that are free for myself and the volunteers. I've even created some training modules at a very low cost. Now I have to make sure that I don't spend more than $28 for the whole year on training. OEM is unique and has expenses that other departments do not have. We have to make sure that our building and our equipment is ready for any kind of situation. In my personal life, I'm very careful with my money. I don't spend what I don't have. I always pay my bills, but I'm not foolish enough not to have money put aside for emergencies. I hope that you'll consider OEM's budget and make sure that we can take care of business and serve our residents. As a taxpayer, I do appreciate you being mindful of the budget. My concern is what kind of contingency is there when I need to go over on a line item due to the unforeseen event. Thank you for listening tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dagmar. I am going to tell you, first of all, if anybody here takes it personally, you better not, because it's not personal. We were doing a goal, and OEM is a duplicate service of Cook County, and we love having it. But in the long-ago days, it was a volunteer. And so, it got to be two paid positions, first one paid position, then two paid positions, and then all these volunteers. Events were being done that, in my opinion, should not, be done, like Maine South football game traffic control. And that was quite a bit of the expenses that was going to this. So I looked very carefully at these line items, and I appreciate the volunteers. I have no offense to giving them much, but I mean, volunteers are volunteers, and it's like the training. Sometimes the training can't subsume the job. When there's been times, when we've had these task force with the flooding and whatnot, I just want the board to be very clear that, the needs have been met, but sometimes there's been, we've always been able to meet it, and we went off your actuals. Like, when we did our original budget meeting, we didn't. We cushioned it a little bit because of various and sundry potential catastrophes. But we had to go off the actuals. We did that. I'm not going to tolerate $400 in glow cups. That's not something I'm going to spend money.
I'm okay with that.
Right, but it was done. So,
I'll make a comment, Dagmar, I know you've been here a long time. We used to have OEM in the building.
Right.
We had one office.
We give you an entire building.
Now you have a huge building. We used to have, if you were here in the Ellen Graver days, 20 years ago when I was here, you had one office in the Maine State apartment. That was it. You didn't have the big building that you have now that also incur a lot of expenses. So, that's one other thing you have to take into consideration. You can get rid of that building and put OEM back in a little office in the Maine State area. I mean, that's also.
Well, that was considered in terms of cutting, and I think everybody appreciates the job Dagmar does. And I don't want you to take it personally. We really do. Dagmar has been trying to get a paid second in command. And I haven't come to this board with this because, I can't justify the need. And so, those are, it's not personal to you. It's based on what the actual expenditures were. But if we were truly going to cut this, like we couldn't move it into the building, sell the building, or house the food pantry there, which is something, we've actually been thinking of, the extra food from the garage. But those are in the future. So I don't want you to get any, that's my response, and I don't mean to respond to public comment, but it isn't personal, and that's the job.
Did you say there's 3 furnaces in the building?
There's actually 5. There's 2 in the other bay that Wally uses.
That's where we keep the sweeper.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dagmar. Does anybody else have any public comment? Yes, now. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Bob Goodsell, and I've lived in the area for 57 years. And I'm in a section of 223 homes called Westfield. It's a triangular area, Milwaukee Avenue, Greenwood, Central. My comments basically a couple of things. It's very difficult. I at one time was in the landscaping business and retired. And retired about 7 years ago, thank God. With all the rain, I'd go nuts putting up with that. But the issue came in relationship to the highway department. I was in the snow plowing business and landscaping business. I went through the blizzard of '67 and the '87 blizzard. And what was on my mind was, how do I get my customers taken care of? As a matter of fact, it took a day to get my four-wheel drive out of my subdivision. Milwaukee Avenue, they were using snowmobiles. There was no traffic at all. Greenwood, they had a bulldozer in there taking care of it. I'd like to say that, as far as I'm concerned, it's very difficult for you guys to put your shoes in someone else's, or put your feet in someone else's shoes. I completely have gone through this with the snow removal and lawn work, and I appreciate very much the facilities and service that Walter has given us. I had the opportunity to work with Bill Frazier and also Bob Provenzano. I am Public Works Director of our Homeowners Association for 31 years. I'm also a secretary of the association, so I know that, you run into these things, and I can appreciate budgeting and the aspects that you're dealing with. I also use the assessor's office. I own some rental property and constantly going through reassessment. And I can appreciate what the assessor's department goes through. It's no fun at all standing in line waiting for help, especially when they come out with the first tax bill. I happen to own a lot of rental property, and I've utilized their facilities quite often. I can appreciate also your comment that you mentioned about you should have used it. It's interesting, my son-in-law just retired from the village, and he was a superintendent, and he had to submit budgets. And you know what he told me Sunday when I went over there? He says, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
And that's exactly what you said. You should have used it, or you lost it. I appreciate the fact that you are physically concerned about our taxes and what have you. But again, you got to put your shoes or your feet in the shoes of Walter, the assessor, to really know what this is all about. nobody's going to tell me how to take care of my sewer system. As a matter of fact, there's very few volunteers that want to do that. But for 31 years, I know exactly our sewer system and what it's all about. Walter knows what it's about. He knows that he could have a blizzard of 67. He knows that that equipment will break down. That equipment is not cheap. Believe me, it's very expensive. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but my expenses have gone up and continue to go up in operating my home. But, you know, I'm fortunate enough that I have reserves. And I think you hit it on the head. You guys have reserves that are sitting there. You're rather nickel and dime a person who knows what's going on, like the assessor. Let's take and use some of that money and let's come to an agreement here and get over this 10-cent dollar type thing. That's basically all that I have to say. Again, thanks to the village, to the township. You guys really operate a wonderful operation, and you keep the costs down. And I can appreciate what you're going through here. I know that you're all working for us, the taxpayer, but again, let's not nickel and dime people like Walter and the assessor's office, and the young woman over there. She knows and they know what they're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. That was sort of what I was trying to say earlier in terms of, you know, like, I thought, you know, you reach a bottom line and, you know, just to echo, and I do appreciate, you know, I think Wally and Susie do know their departments. I don't think there's any kind of, you know, intentional infliction of emotional distress to use a tort. You know, we may be intentionally inflicting emotional distress on all the audience, but you know, we're going to try again, and so my portion of this discussion. I passed down to you these horrific photos and some building proposals. And I have been in discussions with the auditor and the attorney about, you know, line item for building maintenance, absolutely will not cover. So just so the audience knows, what was discovered last Friday is black mold in the maintenance office. And so we got a diagnostician out right away, and unbelievably enough, it's $1,500 for the remediation cleanup. But what has to happen first is there's cracks in the foundation, as well as the slope is wrong, the gradient is wrong. I had the same thing at my house in Park Ridge. Went through hell with the zoning board, but got it. And, you know, to slope it the other way, and to, you know, I think I mentioned painting the building. This is actually more important. You know, this comes first. Mikey is really on the ball. I'm glad you guys elected him. And, you know, he discovered this black mold while he was cleaning out the office. Apparently, I was there for quite a while. I am not going to subject those people to it. It's also, you know, in the supervisor's conference room where we had some meetings. So, you know, it may be a little bigger than, so what I'm going to be proposing, and, you know, I talked to Kurt, maybe he can talk more about it, and Chris, is I do believe that it would be incumbent to establish a capital fund. Also, you got your security proposals in there. You'll see that there's your, you know, little things you want, then there's like, we got other proposals for, slightly less expensive alternatives. And, is, the current building line item, actually, I think it was like 28,000. I don't know if he has it in front of him, but it's certainly not the amount of money that would take care of the emergency masonry, foundation, mold remediation, the secure.
5,000.
5,000? That was what we actually spent? Holy shit.
Is that on page 2?
I know, that's what I'm saying, that's why we need a separate fund, because, obviously that's not gonna be done for $5,000. And so I'm telling the board the need is now, like, it's not, the other project which could be put off is paving, is regutting the parking lot. I told you guys last year, we did sort of surface fix. You do get some attendant liability possibilities with not doing it because the cracks come in. And, if we regut it and make it, the big job that you'll see in there, at least by the end of the summer, or that's usually the time they recommend. So, the painting comes later. The painting also should happen. So, the proposal that I am going to be making is to put a certain amount in a capital fund. And I talked to Kurt and Carrie Lynn and Chris. There are several ways to go about it, but the capital fund does seem the best. First of all, it's specifically exempted from the concerns that Trustee Sweeney had with the reserves. And from the statute you and I talked or emailed about today, and it's restricted, so it can only be spent for those uses. A separate bank account is established and whatnot. Attorneys assure me it's as simple as a resolution. Obviously, we'd have to do this, next week, and so it wouldn't per se be part of the budget bottom line because it would be a capital fund. And, Kurt, do you want to add, did I screw anything up there?
No, I think you covered it. The
Wow.
goal is that, you don't have the issue of a tax rate objection with the capital funds, because the whole point is that you accumulate funds in there for specific projects where you're not just sitting on the funds, and that's why you get tax rate objections in the first place. That's why there was that recent amendment to the township code.
Right.
Suggested this to Carol several times.
Right, and Kim just pointed out, we had suggested this to Supervisor Teske several times. And, nothing was spent other than these lights, which had to be redone 4 times.
This is very common practice to set up a capital.
Yes, it is actually, Chris, you had some numbers on that, right? In some of the boards you do, or am I?
No, most townships and municipalities do have capital projects fund, obviously for specific reasons, like you're saying, that need to be done. So there's money put aside for those expenses in the future.
Right, and it comes
then
from,
obviously takes the reserves from the town fund down, and you move that cash to the capital fund.
exactly, so it directly uses the reserves. We've been trying to give the reserves back to, the community, and the building's part of the community. So my one other question, when you establish a capital fund, do you need to list like everything? If there's some flooding issue, at Robin Drive, that, we want to, I don't know.
You would want to address future items that will need work.
Okay.
There are companies out there that will come in and say, hey, these are the things that need to be done, and here's the estimated price that it would take. It could be a 1-year project, it could be 3 years, but it could be up to 10 years, like Niles Township. I audited them, they have a fund that they had a study, and it said, okay, over the next 10 years, these items do need to be fixed. So they need to budget accordingly to fix these items. as they come or as the township should fix these things. But
Okay,
that's
so
not
Niles
what's happening.
Township has a capital fund.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does the fund specifically pertain to township property? I mean, you were mentioning.
That's why I'm asking, you know, we had talked previously about a different way of doing it. which
Yeah, Niles Township actually assigns the fund balance, but like we discussed, I think for our sake here, it'd be just easier to set up a fund, have a separate bank account.
Right, but tell Pete the difference, you know, with an assigned fund balance.
What was going through my head is this specifically for township property, correct? As
Right,
opposed
for
to
building by the township.
capital improvement on street or,
Yeah,
Go either way.
my recommendation is that you have a specific, when the resolution passes, you know, creating this fund, there's guidelines on what it's going to be used for, so that it's clear that's why you're accumulating the funds for these purposes.
But it could be used for, you know, right now, we've worked with Republic to establish sort of a remedy for the problem at D and Sumac, and, you know, that's sort of a pilot thing, and we're, you know, expending some more money to put out dumpsters. And so we could, if we listed,
As long as, yeah, you want to make sure that there's a basis for why you're accumulating these
Okay.
funds. Yeah, what's the
Okay.
reason behind it, so that, you know, obviously the point is that you don't get a tax rate objection, because
Sure.
you're just sitting on funds for no reason.
and so it's my understanding, you know, what Chris had been saying to me was like, originally we thought we could just use the line item, right? And just make it restricted.
Right.
But it seems better to kill two birds with one stone, take it out, you know, use the reserves directly, and thereby, you know, actually spending the reserves that everybody's, you know, worried about. At the same time, you know, doing these things that have to be done. So, I just had thought it was a very complicated process, but administratively it isn't, and that, you know, many other townships have this. So that's why I wanted you to have these estimates. These are clearly rough estimates. You know, Nike did a yeoman's job, you know, discovering mold Friday and getting an estimate, you know, today at 10 a.m. I mean, he went to Home Depot, they gave him a bunch of bleach and said, yeah, they had it.
And a mask.
With a mask. So, yeah, no. So, I just, you know, that's something, and I guess my question to our attorney and the auditor is, I think it probably should be part of next week.
How do we determine exactly what we're talking about?
To include it in the budget for next week?
Right, I mean, if it's separate, if it's a capital fund, it is like separate from the budget? Or can it be done at the next, you know, this is an emergency.
Defer to them on the actual financial.
The masonry and the foundation is an emergency.
Right.
That is really an emergency. I'm not gonna let the township people live with
For the audit that I'm completing, which obviously the field work's done, so that I should have the report done within the next month, but we can, for this year's audit, assign part of the fund balance for these projects that the township needs. Assignments can take place after the end of the reporting period. So that can kind of be a liaison to starting the capital project fund. Like I recommended, I need to see the invoices that we
Right, I
know
have
that
that.
need to get done. So I can take those amounts, because obviously, like the attorney said, they have to be things that we know we need to do. I need to see an invoice, I need to see a bid, I need to see some sort of study that says, okay, these are the things that we need. Then I can restrict, assign this to a different word for that, a fund balance for future use. And then we can just then, at that point, we know what it is, and then move that money to start the capital fund. So I don't really think it's necessary to do it within this new budget period, within the next week. I mean, I think that should, I mean, they can approve the resolution, I don't know if we can work one up that quick, but.
Oh, yeah, Carolyn said.
If we at least approve the start of the fund, then we can just start it next, for, you know, next fiscal year, it has really nothing to do with the budget per se.
Well, that's where I'm confused. Is a restricted line item the same as a capital fund? I thought it was different.
This way that the statute reads, it doesn't really define it, it just says capital funds.
Right, because it's so brand new, it hasn't been interpreted. So do we, feel we're safe doing that route, or is it
Certainly, yeah,
better?
not a legal issue. It's a-
If you restrict another line item in the town fund, then we're gonna be blown out of proportion with what the board's trying to do with the reduction. That's part of the reason why it makes sense to do the capital fund.
But now you're saying different, that's,
Well, if we were gonna restrict an amount in the town fund, it's still gonna be included within the budget.
would not be,
Would be, it's in the town fund.
okay,
If it's capital, then it's not included in the
Right.
budget.
right. So, in my opinion, I thought it was better to get it done in a week.
Did we include these amounts that you're showing up here in the budget? I don't think we did.
No,
Well, so-
because they wanted actual.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, so.
So that's the capital fund would establish those
Right.
monies.
Right,
It would be in the budget that we're looking at right now.
right, but you
It's
had
a capital
mentioned like
fund.
liaison, starting an unrestricted or a restricted access fund and then working our way up to, that's where I got.
Well, because I was talking about the period I'm on it for 228 and 18, to say, we know what, we need these done, I could assign that fund balance, but then next year that amount wouldn't be assigned, it's not, it's own fund for next year's audit.
Right,
The
but,
budget for last year's already been,
right, but if legally they can do it, you don't have a problem
no,
with a capital fund.
correct.
That would not affect the bottom line of the budget, is what I'm understanding.
Correct.
Right? Wouldn't change the numbers, and actually might reduce it a little bit because the building line item, although really, you said 5,000. Yeah, I don't think we should reduce that much more. So I want everybody, to look at these and, if you want to weigh in now, that's fine. All I know is that,
So let's just get the budget done first.
but these have to start.
I understand. My suggestion is though is that I don't want to get these budgets done. They gotta get done. And it's Tuesday, the building's not gonna fall down, and we're not gonna sink into a middle of the year. If we could just get the budgets done, and then we can tackle those things.
We can work on a capital fund after next week, right? Deputies, and come up with a capital fund after the budget is passed.
Yes, as long as we are all aware that we are having to move, personnel out of, the downstairs and double up in the lounge, conference room. And I really don't think it's a wise thing to expose everybody to black mold.
Have you called the EPA to do an air study?
No, we wanted to get an estimate with diagnostics first. I didn't know about this.
Because they can do an air study to see how many particles are in the air.
Yeah, there's really health concerns or issues.
I'm sorry?
I'm glad Kim had brought that up, because, I just think we need to be aware of any health
Right,
concerns
right,
that can't wait.
right, I don't want an OSHA concern. That's why,
We're not saying to not get the black mold. If you need a.
there's
motion for that-
no line item for it.
We can just,
Is it not the building?
Well, we've
we
got
can
that
just,
five-
we can just make them, right? We can just,
Because it's
Approve
on the
the-
actual,
we can
it's
just-
$5,000.
one of the problems, I might as well say it now. One of the problems I have is in attending conferences, et cetera, regarding township business. It's been alleged that it's a common practice for townships when they have more money than they're supposed to be holding on to open up a capital fund, dump money into the capital fund, so it's not picked up as part of their reserves and fall under the restriction imposed by the Illinois legislature on how much you could hold in reserves. Now, I'm one of those that likes to avoid the appearance of impropriety. I'm not saying there's any impropriety, okay? But rush out and say, oh my God, we have an emergency, we're going to open a capital fund, we're all of a sudden throw money and we're do this, we're do that. Hold on, if there's an absolute emergency, we have the power to crack open the checkbook with a simple resolution, and it's very open. And
How?
Very,
I want to know how.
right. Right?
No, the resolution would be to establish a capital
No,
fund.
it would be just for, if the building suddenly needs that clock fixed, I don't have to open a capital fund to do it. If there's a crack in that window, I don't have to open, right.
It's a $5,000.
But this is why I want to just get the budget done first. Because I was hoping that we had it all together tonight. Like you say, I think we're close, but I'd like to see us get the budget done first. That's why I also put back, as you recall, I tabled what I thought was an extreme emergency, is the additional security for the building, because that was convoluting the argument about the budget. So that's what I'll hold. I'm suggesting, my position, we hold that back, let's get the budget done and get it done by Tuesday, let's get the numbers in, so that Dana doesn't have to do a 48-hour up to, with no dose to get it done.
Again, we're gonna get 3 proposals immediately. I can't submit, I can't have OSHA violations. Trustee McKenzie.
So we're operating under a temporary resolution to keep last year's budget. So I think we can go ahead and do the mold remediation under this.
But the contract,
Correct.
the foundation comes first, part, in
So I
order to
mean,
do.
we don't even have that proposal yet. If you get it before next week, we can talk about it.
Oh, we
next
are.
week. But, okay, so I think, I don't think there's gonna be a problem. Nobody's saying that we're gonna live with black mold. So let's get the proposal, let's talk about it next week, we'll get that going. But the capital fund for all these other projects, we don't have to do it by Tuesday.
Okay, so I'm talking about the capital fund for, these specific emergencies, and then I know they tabled the security, I didn't know it was off the table. If it's off the table, then it's off
No,
the table.
it's
But it has to get paid for somehow. So please explain to me, because I'm not an accountant, that if we pass a budget that has a $5,000 line item for building, how do we go about?
You overspend the line item.
Okay. So, by $100,000,
Could be about $500,000.
Right.
Then you have to amount.
okay. That seems backwards to me, when,
Well, it's an extenuating circumstance that we're trying to address, and we will address if we have a proposal next week. We can even
you
make it part
guys will
of,
have a proposal by the
and
end
we'll
of
make
this.
it part of our discussion.
Okay, good. Alright, so I just wanted to make everybody aware of it, and I think, Dave has been a very big proponent of employee safety, and,
I agree with you.
haven't had any gun threats, thank God, but this is sort of a bigger threat right now. Okay, so now the next item on the agenda is the discussion and action, potential action on staff raises, performance, and cost of living. This is with respect to town fund NGA. You had, the reason it's back on here, you guys had tabled it, so it had to go back on here, and so I wanted you guys to see those line items and see that, trustee Sweeney.
I
I just had a question, because we had talked about Denise's assistant hire. So does that factor, was there any?
It's already included.
That was included, okay, because we had said, depending on what we see and where we come
It's
in.
included.
That would then, okay, so we've got some chances.
Everything is included. Replacing the senior person who was gone, that's included at a lower cost. Everything's included, like literally everything that could potentially be included is included.
Okay, so then do we need to have a vote on the hire of that? Because we kind of left it that we would advertise for it?
And we posted back, we haven't gotten any
Right.
applications.
But then we have to make a decision to put it on the agenda for an actual vote.
Yes, that will be on your May agenda.
Okay.
And I included the line item though, as requested by you guys to have the line item cover, everything. And so it does. And I think it comes in, very reasonably. And typically, and of course I'm not saying this, but typically, this vote is done before, because then, you have that firm number, and this has nothing to do with highway, or the assessors. This is, the breakdowns. We had our discussions in closed session. If your guys' feeling is you want to wait and put it over, we have so much next week. I don't know what your thoughts are, and I'm asking your thoughts. Trustee McKenzie.
I say put it over only because we don't have the assessor budget done, and I know that it doesn't include the assessor, but I just, in order to get, that's the missing piece, so I think we should just do it all together as a week. But I have a question on the breakdown of the salary increases proposed, and I'm trying to reconcile to the budget, the revised budget numbers. And for the very first salary item is under administration personnel salaries. And the amount of the budget item is $806,911. And I'm trying to find that on the sheet.
That includes the elected officials.
Right. And elected officials are not on the
It's
salary.
right, the 806 includes the elected officials, but we don't have the elected officials.
Right, we took the elected officials out of the salary, because we've already realized the cost savings in the elected officials, with the 20%, 25% reduction in the salaries. And so, it actually, it's actually with the insurance is. I'm sorry, you're right, with all the special meetings. Because you guys were getting paid for every special meeting, and now you're not.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. When you set that salary ordinance, you should think about that. So,
Can I just ask if it's can I just ask for the list of the elected official salaries, just so that I can type it out? I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I'm sure Chris has it, and if you want to fix it or email it to me, that's fine too.
Yeah, it actually needs to be part of that, sure.
I have the resolution, that has all the salaries.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay.
all right. So, so your guys, when are you going to make a motion to table this to next week?
Make a motion to table this next week.
Is there a second?
Second.
Giving a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Jalanis, can you call the roll?
Supervisor
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Great, and the next item on discussion possible action on trustee Sweeney's motion as follows, motion and a vote to adopt. Does everybody have the agenda in front of them? Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to table this motion. Do I have a second? Yep.
Yes, second.
Having a motion and a second, is there, for the same reasons, I think it might become moot. So I really see no reason to have any debate on this, so having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Okay,
I would just say that I think based on what we talked about tonight and what the motion, the intention of the motion was to keep it flat to 5% reduction. We have come within that realm, so very pleased, and that's why we can.
well, thank you. All right. Now, so let's not lose our sight. We are, did somebody motion? Oh, I motioned to table. So we have a second. Clerk Jelinek, you need the roll.
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota? Yes. Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna ask for, I'm doing a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.